Hello everybody and welcome to this week's very important edition of LAB. This video was originally intended to be solely about law tech, but when I sat down and started planning this video and what I wanted to go in it, I realised that the preamble to this video, which explains the background to how the tech revolution has come about and the potential impacts on the legal market, was an entire video in itself, which is this video. So in this video, I am going to focus on drivers of change in the legal marketplace. And in part 2 of this video, which you're going to see in a couple of weeks, that video is going to focus solely on law tech, what it is, different types of law tech, how that's going to affect us as lawyers and the legal marketplace as a whole. So let's start off with drivers of change. I personally think, and it is only my personal opinion, I'm not saying it's right or that it has to be your opinion, but I think that it can be broken down into 2 broad categories. So the first one is market conditions, which I'm going to break down further in a couple of minutes, and the second one is consumer behaviours, which I'm also going to break down for you. So the first one, market conditions. I think you can break market conditions down into a further 4 subcategories. The first one being the economy/stock market, the second one being competition, the third one being law reform, and the fourth one being regulation. So let's talk about the first one, the economy/stock market. I'm not going to go into this in loads of detail because it speaks for itself to a certain extent, and I've also covered it briefly in my commercial awareness videos and my video about the collapse of Carillion a couple of months ago. So in terms of the economy/stock market, clearly any change in the economy is going to impact how a law firm operates. It impacts profitability, it impacts margins, and it impacts the behaviours of our clients. And any change in any of those things is going to instigate a change in the way law firms operate. And any change for one law firm is going to result in a change for many law firms, and thus the entire marketplace. Which brings me on to my next one, which is competition. We all know the legal marketplace is extremely competitive. Lots of very similar firms offering similar services to broadly similar clients. So there is a huge emphasis on similar firms to make sure that they are always at the top of their game and doing something new and exciting and better to make sure they are attracting those clients and they are not going to a competitor. But in terms of competition, there's also increased competition that's resulted over the last few years due to the fact that the legal marketplace has opened up so that now non-lawyers and non-law firms can offer legal services. An example of this we've seen is the big 4 accountancy firms offering legal services. So what does this mean? This essentially now means there's even more choice for consumers as to who can provide their legal services. And for some consumers, it may well be more attractive to go, for example, to their accountant who already offers them their accountancy service. They may think it makes more sense and it's easier just to keep everything under one roof, and they take their legal services to their accountancy. Another benefit of non-law firms offering legal services is they're not subject to the same business model and the same business pressures as traditional law firms. They quite often don't have to work to billable hours targets, and that means they can provide the same services for less money, which also increases competition because consumers naturally want more for less. They want the same service for less money. And if non-law firms can offer that, then consumers are likely to gravitate towards those types of business. So that means there's more pressure on traditional law firms to up their game, amend and change the way they provide services so that they can meet the demand in line with the non-law firms. The third one then, law reform. So law reform affects different areas of law depending on what the law reform is. For example, in civil litigation, we are about to have fixed costs imposed on a number of different areas of civil litigation. Now, what this means for firms who practice in civil litigation is to make sure that their practices are in line with those profitability schemes. So essentially that the law firm can remain profitable even in line with those fixed cost brackets. So there needs to be increased efficiency and maximum cost recovery to make sure we stay profitable in line with those brackets. Fourth and final one, regulation. A great example of this was my video a few weeks ago on GDPR. And I've explained in detail in that video the implications on law firms, and essentially that in order to deal with these additional regulations and make sure that law firms are compliant, they need to change the way they operate to make sure that they are still efficient and they're still remaining profitable, even though we have to comply with increased regulation. And of course, any law firm who is showing particular efficiency and remaining particularly profitable in light of these regulations and remaining compliant means that other law firms will follow suit because they want to remain equally profitable. So the second category then, consumer behaviours. So this can be broken down into what clients want from their lawyers and how they want their services delivered. The consumer platform has changed massively over recent years with the rise of the internet and also with social media. What clients want from their lawyers is now entirely different to what they wanted 50 years ago. Years and years ago, you would walk down the high street, you would see a sign for a law firm and you'd walk in, you'd have a chat with them and you'd probably hire them on that basis. Nowadays, consumers are looking on the internet for their law firms. They want to see a fancy website, they want to read good reviews online, they want to see social media engagement, they want to see awards, they want to see lots of stuff over and above their lawyer just being the right person for the job. So lawyers and law firms have to accommodate that to make sure they are still being attractive to their consumers as their needs change. The second part is how the services are delivered. Again, with the changing nature of the consumer platform, some consumers still want to have face-to-face meetings, some want to be contacted by phone, some want to be updated by email, some want to be updated by text, some people want to engage with an app. Consumers is horses for courses, all different types of consumers, and because there are now so many different ways to deliver services, law firms have to make sure they offer a range of delivery methods and keep an eye on what their consumers are doing and what their clients are likely to want to make sure they adapt to those changes, implement new ways of delivering services to make sure they keep their clients happy. At this point, I could introduce a third category of driver of change, which is tech, but because I feel that tech kind of straddles the border between being a driver of change and being a product of the change, I am going to save tech for a video all on its own in a couple of weeks. If you're interested in everything that I've just said, but you are struggling to remember or haven't written it all down, then you know I love a handy grid and I'm putting one on screen right now. So if this is helpful to you, please feel free to screenshot and add to your list of resources on file. The fun thing about all of this is that we as lawyers and law firms have zero control over any of the variables that I've just talked about. So the only thing that we can do is really closely analyse market conditions and consumer behaviours and make educated guesses about how our consumer behaviour and the market conditions are going to change in the future, and make sure that we adapt appropriately to make sure that when these changes come in, we flourish rather than flounder and make sure that we stay profitable. If you've enjoyed what I've just said and you want to find out more about it, then I can recommend nothing better than this book by Richard Susskind called Tomorrow's Lawyers. It's aimed at junior lawyers and it's all about the landscape of the future of the legal marketplace, and it's aimed at junior lawyers, so it's really easy to read, it's not that big, it's easy to digest, and I think you will find it really interesting if you are a law geek like me. So I really recommend that you give this a read before you start applying for training contracts, maybe over the summer now that you've got a bit more time to yourself. So, as a closing remark, sadly I am not in a position to guarantee anyone training contracts. However, I will suggest that if you understand all the factors that I've gone through today and you keep tabs on them as well, so you understand how they're changing, read articles, pay attention to what's going on in the marketplace, and you read this book, you will be in a very strong position compared to other aspiring lawyers at your stage. That's all I'm going to say. I will see you in a couple of weeks for Tech Part 2.